see us.
Perfect. Great. Well, welcome everyone. It's 12 noon in the East, or thereabouts, maybe 2 minutes after. It's the Remarkable Results Radio Podcast and the Weekly Town Hall Academy, 12 noon Eastern. And not without a great topic to talk about this week with a great panel. I'd like to I'd like to tell everyone that Tom Ham is on with us from AutoCentric and Automotive Management Network. Say hi, Tom.
Hi,
Tom. Thank you for not saying hi, Tom. Rick White from 180 Biz. Hi, Rick.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Lunchtime now.
It is. Yes, it is.
Cutting into my food time.
You're East Coast, Tom. You're East Coast, and I think Randy, you're East Coast. This is something we usually have people from all over the country, but at least we're all East Coasters this time. And Randy Luzik from Midas in Kalkaska, Michigan.
Kalkaska.
I always say that wrong. God, I always say, listen, go to the show notes. All these guys have been on the podcast before or have been on the Academy before, and there'll always be links once this becomes a podcast by Wednesday. A lot of buzz about our topic on social media. I want to thank Jasper Engines and Transmissions for their support of the Town Hall Academy. Performance and reliability. That's what Jasper's remanufactured diesel engines provide mile after mile. Now, I was at the plant, and I saw the diesel lines, and I saw their dynamometers and all their testing, and they run their complete engines, dynamometer tested, horsepower and torque ratings recorded. There's a nationwide warranty included, too. Talk about dependable service from Jasper. Well, thank you very much, Jasper. Hey, what are we talking about today? Installing customers' parts, remedies, and solutions. I want to start out by saying that this panel's perspective is meant to excite a dialogue, not to necessarily say this is exactly how it should be done. But I think we're going to have a great dialogue today that will allow you to decide which option you'd like to take, A or B. And I think it's usually black or white for so many people. They do or they don't. And even the guys that are in the middle sometimes regret one of their decisions at either end. I want to set something up here. Amazon, I guess why there is so much talk is because there's so much part availability out there for people to buy because they've been told through YouTube that that's what's wrong with their car, so they go out and buy it, and now they've got these parts. What do they do with it? Amazon, $5 billion worth of parts, 20% growth rate in the parts category. eBay, $4 to $5 billion in parts sales, and the industry is growing at 3%. So there is some share being taken, and there are going to be stuff out, parts in people's hands saying, now what do I do with this? So we want to talk about this portion of the public, the consuming public, that looks at our service profession almost as a commodity. If not, we wouldn't be talking about this. I want to start with Randy. Randy, my first question to you is about a meeting you recently had, and your parts supplier got in front of you and said, hey, will you guys install our parts? And what happened?
Yeah, so we had a meeting with about 20 or so shop owners, and they were their service center cream, and I think they wanted to introduce a concept and measure the feedback, and I think they did a great job with it. But the bottom line was, for all but a couple of us in the room, it was a lead balloon. I think there were people that were insulted that they would even suggest it because it's coming from so many different directions already. And I don't think anybody really wanted to embrace it, which left me thinking that that I needed to put some more thought into this. I had found out in that meeting about Amazon Home Services, and I signed up because I want to keep track of those guys. I had worked on a project about 1.5 years ago where Amazon was looking at producing a point-of-sale system for shops that actually queried their Amazon parts listings. And so those guys have my respect in the sense that they are the big guys. They're the gorillas, and I want to keep an eye on them. But I would tell you that the reaction in the room was less than probably what they wanted. I think my part supplier was looking to try to get ahead of the situation with the online suppliers, the Rock Autos, the Amazons, and how do we do that? We know that more and more vehicles are becoming more and more complex. We know these folks can't really install them correctly. We know we have warranty exposure because people are installing the parts incorrectly. And so how do we create a partnership with our existing service centers that can work and we supply the parts directly to the customer and they have us do the installs?
We're in an incredible time in our industry, and the disruptors that are out there are really making change, and some of them continue to push so hard at what they do and to continue to get venture capital, albeit Amazon's over here and somehow they print money, I guess, right? And there's nothing that they can't do. And everyone said they couldn't be in music and they couldn't be in food. And just let me throw one more disruptor out just for the heck of it. CVS buying Aetna. And if that isn't a disruptor in our whole world of healthcare and how we deal with drugs, wait till it all happens. And there's now doctor clinics inside of CVS's, and how all that prescription stuff takes place and changes and is competitive. So I can't say that we're just sitting here saying, woe is us, and there's all this stuff going on in the room. Industries are changing because business models are getting reinvented. And maybe what was going on in your supplier room, Randy, was someone trying to look to the future by looking to their customer and wondering what it may look like. Where do they fit?
I told them thank you. I mean, I actually appreciated the fact that they had the courage to broach the subject. Regardless of its popularity, if if there's money in it, somebody's going to look to get between us and the consumer, and it's we can all just bury our head in the sand, but at the end of the day, somebody's coming.
That's a great point, by the way. Okay, so we're going to install parts on customers' cars. Someone walks in. Tom, have you ever found that installing customers' parts a source to find yourself a great future customer?
Personally, in 40 years, no. I think your odds of finding a good customer that way are slim to none. There's always going to be exceptions, rare exceptions, but I can't say we've ever generated a great customer that way by starting with somebody bringing their own parts in. It's just it's not a good foundation for a relationship.
Have you ever done it, though? Can I ask you that question?
Oh, we've done it in the past, and that's part of the reason we don't do it now. It's just a terrible idea. There's easily 10 or 20 or 30 reasons why not to, and not one reason to do it. Not a good reason that anybody's ever posed to me.
Let's tear apart some of those reasons here in a little bit. Rick, why are more people looking to buy parts online now than ever before?
Well, first of all, I think we can agree as a panel that it's not our existing customers, our great customers, that are looking for parts online. It's these new customers, people that are coming in for the first time. And we got to understand, at least I do, where that's coming from. It's coming from a place of fear on their part. They're afraid of being taken advantage of. They're afraid of not understanding what's going on. So they go to YouTube, they go to Google and those kind of things. So that's part of it. The other thing is it's a lot easier to find these things out than it used to be. The transparency, for years, we've been very, very happy. I mean, transparency has changed the auto industry and how they sell a car today. No longer is the front of the store in a dealership the moneymaker. It's now fixed stops. So, now it's coming to us and we have to adapt to that. We have to be able to either explain it or come up with a plan that makes sense that, helps the customer and at the same time protects the shop.
A plan that makes sense. Where are you going with that?
I'm one of those guys where I have a personal opinion on this. I don't believe shops should install customer supplied parts. I think they're a headache that are just beyond, it isn't worth it.
What's at risk?
Oh my gosh. Your reputation's at risk. The quality of the part comes in and it's not, it's not there. I mean, before we started the broadcast, I showed and I got this idea from Randy. There's a Baron that you can buy from Napa that's $150, but I can go to Amazon and buy 2 of those Barons. So I have a left and a right so both wheels are going to fall off at the same time, for $70. So, the reality is you put one of those parts on, you don't know with a customer, you're letting go of the quality because you're not sourcing the part. The other thing that happens is with reputation is they get this preconceived notion of what's going on. They get a part to deal with that. You put the part in. If that wasn't the cause of their concern, you now own it. Now you're having to deal with the diagnosis. It's called an anchor bias. It's where somebody takes the first piece of information they give that more weight than anything else. That's why we have sticker prices on cars and everything else. I use anchoring all the time with my grandson. It's time to go to bed. It's 8:30 your bedtime tonight. Well, how about 8:45? How about 8:15? It starts where we negotiate. So, the fact is these are real issues. Beyond that, you got safety. You could literally be putting somebody at risk. They buy injectors for $20 on eBay, and you're putting them in the car. I mean, there's got to be some liability in there.
Guys, you got Tom and Randy. You were a former shop owner. Rick, now you're a coach and a consultant. Let me ask you the question. Rick showed us this screen before we opened up, and I saw prices from $119 to $159, and then I saw 2 for $75. Tom, when you use the logic of your 40 years in business and you look at that, would you buy that and say they're okay, they're safe, is it the right thing? Consumers may just jump on it, but what about you?
Oh, not a chance.
Okay.
There's no way you'd buy that. And I think, and we'll get some varying opinions in here just for fun. We'll argue with Rick or whatever. But see, I think if you're getting more than the occasional request for that, you have a problem with your business. Mm-hmm. You have a symptom. It's what's called feedback. If you read Trump's book, The Midas Touch, everything is feedback, and this is feedback too. You either are marketing your business to attract these people, or you're in the wrong location. And sometimes the best thing you can do to a business is move. Either that, or you need to totally redesign your approach. What's making these people, and this is true of not just do-it-yourself or parts, but any kind of situation, any kind of alligator bad customer that we talk about, why are we attracting them? Now, you always got to ask, why did they come in here? There's something attracted them to come in there, and you got to get rid of that. And one of the classes we used to do is called Customers Worth Having. And people need to focus on customers worth having. And people who are not your target customer, let them go somewhere else. They're not your target. They're never going to be profitable. They're never going to do you any good. What they're going to do is they're going to help you write bad policies for your business based on some losers that will affect all your good customers. So there's just endless places you can go with this on why not to do it.
Randy, same thing. Would you buy those 2 for $75?
Well, not only would I not buy them, even if I was willing to install the customer supplied parts, I wouldn't install those parts because we already know that those babies are coming back. They're probably bad the moment I put them on, ABS light on, whatever it is. So there's no future in that whatsoever. Yeah. But we're thinking on our feet at the front counter. We're finding out what these things are. That information from Rick actually came from an Amazon call. We're an installer for Amazon Home Services. We've yet to ever do anything for them. But a customer called and said, I've got 2 bearings I bought from Amazon for $80 for my 2010 Chrysler Town & Country. And is the 180 you've got listed on Amazon the price to install 1 or 2? And when we found out it was the price to install 1 and it was double that to install 2, that ended the conversation.
So wait a minute, they never bought them? They were just finding out if they buy them and they come to you?
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah, they were finding out about the installation before they made the purchase.
But did you tell them I won't install them just because they're not? They don't seem to be at the standard that I would be expecting to pay for that bearing? I
didn't take the call, so I can't answer that. I didn't take the call.
Good. Plausible deniability. That's called.
That's right.
One of the things that I see that's an issue, and Tom, to your point, I think we're an industry that has trained our customers that we compete on price and not value or benefits. And because a shop doesn't understand the value that they bring to the table, when you you become a commodity and the only way you can differentiate is price, that's a race to the bottom. You can't win. And I think one of the best ways to deal with this, I don't think that every person calling asking if I'll install a part is necessarily a bad customer. They have a fear, and it's my job on that counter to see if I can alleviate or lessen that fear. And the way to do that is, Mr. Customer, is it the price or is it the cost that you're concerned about? And what that does is it allows me to change the focus of the conversation from the price, the one-time event, to the value, the lifetime event that they get. And that's when I can start to build in the value, the benefits that we bring to the table. And if it's a customer worth having, that's going to do it.
We have got to do so much better job at our service counters. And to my panel, when you've seen the service advisor training go on inside your business, do you see a lot of these issues go away?
Oh, absolutely. Getting professional training for your service advisors is one of the best investments you can make.
Absolutely.
There's a number of folks out there, of course, Rick's here, who can do that and give them the word tracks, et cetera, to say the answers to these things. And they just make these issues go away. They move the focus somewhere else. If it's a good potential customer, the customer does end up in the shop and the rest of them go away. But there's lots of things we can do. Service advisors are certainly one. Another one is a lot of shops nowadays, we've done it for years, we sell services. So a front brake repair is $449. That's what it says on the invoice. There's no parts prices. There's no labor prices. There's no time. There's no parts numbers. It's a front brake service, and it mentions what parts are included, the pads and the rotors and the hardware and so on. But we get away from the parts price. That'll eliminate a whole lot of the price issue right there. That one simple thing. The problem that people run into is often their software won't do it. But a lot of the softwares will do it, and it's worth for having people call their software supplier and finding out, how can I do this on my invoice?
Well, you got to be careful, though, because some states require that broken out. But I think one of the biggest things, Tom, to your point, word tracks, is instead of telling someone it's parts and labor, you tell them it's out the door. To take care of this brake service, your out the door price is,
right,
or your out the door investment. That's even better, right? You don't want to say cost. You always say investment, because the vehicle is an asset. They're either maintaining the value or increasing it. So it's always investment. But I think, Carm, stepping back before we do training, there's got to be a decision. The owner has to decide once and for all, either to get on this side of the fence or this side of the fence, and then train their people on that answer. Right? Like, I did a webinar about it, and one of the first things I said is, look, if you're going to install a customer supplied part, the first thing I want you to do is smile. Because what we do is, I see shop owners, they make the decision to install the part, but then they're mad at the customer for doing it, and that doesn't make any sense to me. Right? It's like, look, guy, if you're going to make the decision, look, I'll put your part in, but I am going to punish you the whole time. And that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make a customer at all. If we're going to decide to put the part in, smile and make it a pleasant experience, but have a plan in place that keeps you whole as a shop if you're going to do it. And, the fact is, even after we have this great discussion, there are going to be shops out there that feel like they either have to or they really want to install customer supplied parts. And that's why we're independent business people. But have a plan that protects the shop, keeps you profitable, and is clear to the customer. So I think the first thing is a decision, and then training on whichever way you go.
And I'll just throw in that I agree completely with both Tom and Rick. The challenge, your original question was, if we do service advisor training, does it make a difference? And it absolutely does. To Tom's point earlier, this is kind of a rare occurrence. It is for our shop. I mean, this is not something that even happens every month. So it's not something we get training on over and over again, because we don't actually get the request that often. There are probably other shops, to Tom's point, that probably do. And so I think that it's still, even with Rick's process and training, I think there's still a chance that if we go 3 months without hearing the question, we're still not going to answer it as smoothly as we'd like to see it answer. But certainly we've got to have the process and the training.
And one of the
Randy,
best, go ahead.
No,
One
go
of the
ahead, Tom.
best, just briefly, one of the best word tracks that we found is just, we used to do that. Things have changed with the culture and climate, and things have moved ahead. Today, with insurance, warranty, liability, we just can't do it anymore. We'd like to do it for you. We used to be able to, but we can't do it today. Now, we can certainly take care of your car and let me know what's going on with it, and we'll get you a good value. So let's take the conversation over there.
And I love that. And I absolutely love that. But let me stop for another quick memento and thank Jasper for the support of the podcast. Your customer's engine or transmission is going to wear out, and when that day comes, Jasper will be the name to remember. Jasper's remanufactured products cost considerably less than new vehicles, so it just makes sense to choose Jasper for your customer's car. Rick.
Yes, sir.
Is it our job to protect people from themselves?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we have to understand there's another bias. It's called the curse of knowledge. And the curse of knowledge states that if I understand a certain subject, then unconsciously, I expect everybody that I come in contact with to have that same level of understanding. The reality is customers are going to make a decision on only 2 reasons. Well, actually 3. First is trust. If they don't trust you, they're not going to buy. But then after that, when you're presenting something to your customer, they're only using 2 criteria, and that's time. Do I want to take the time to do it now? And do I want to spend that money now? Time and money are the only 2 criteria customers use to make purchase decisions in auto repair. So it's up to us as a professional not to just present our recommendations, but to understand what the customer wants as a goal for their vehicle, and then assert ourselves as an advisor to help them get there. We have to guide them through the process.
Yeah, well stated.
Yeah, and I think when you were on the podcast with me, you talked a lot about insights, didn't you?
I might have.
And if it wasn't you, it was someone else, but that's what just came to my mind, Rick, and it was like our customer, if they're treating us like a commodity, they don't value what we do. Maybe it's because we're not really sharing with them enough insights of the complexity of the automotive, of the automobile, what it takes to do the repair, the investments that you have. If someone comes to you for a cash transaction, or does someone come to you for a place, a home where you make me safe and reliable?
The biggest problem I see, and Tom, Randy, you please chime in. The biggest thing that I see is shop owners don't understand the value that they bring. When I'm helping a shop with marketing, the first question I ask them, Carm, is, hey, Carm, why would I, as a prospective customer, drive by 3 other repair shops to come do business with you? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is, I don't know. And when they don't know, how can we ever expect our customers? Our customers aren't going to figure out our value. We have to be able to tell them our value. We have to be able to spotlight our value. And Bill Hill here said counterfeit parts, which is huge today, right? I recently saw a shop that wanted to save some money. They bought some plugs, and they were NKG plugs.
There's a little problem
Think
with
about
the
it.
order of those letters.
Think about that for a second. So that's really out there, and we do have to protect our customers. And something, we want to keep them safe, and part of keeping them safe sometimes is stopping them from doing something that will do them harm.
Are we self-inflicting ourselves to look to the consuming public as a commodity?
What do you mean?
Well, we're bad-mouthing fellow shop owners down the road. We're not selling value. Our places haven't come from the dark ages. That still looks like a shop from the 70s. And I'm not saying everyone, because the industry is really turning around. And I think there's more inertia for greater degrees of profit, better salaries and benefits and investments, and for a double-digit net operating profit. I mean, I think the industry is on the move. And so as we move forward, can we carry some of the middle group up And is part of that strategy is that, listen, I'm the single source supplier for your vehicle, my parts, my labor, my service, my tech, our technology. I say no to installing parts. It ever happen to you when you say no, Randy? What does the customer say?
No to whether we'll install their parts or not.
Yeah.
I would tell you that I think that it contributes to the idea that there's something not right from the consumer's perspective. There's something not right about the fact that because they found the part cheaper, and the answer is no. If the motivation for the consumer is lower price and they found the part cheaper than what you would sell it for, then I think that there's always going to leave, if we just leave it at no, and I think there's all kinds of valid points we can use, there's always going to be something in the back of their mind saying something's not right about this. That's where I would like to make sure we're doing our job at the front counter, educating the customer about the value that we provide, and if we need to, get down to what the reasons are for the fact that we don't do it, and even if we did do it, it really doesn't save you much money at all, because really at the end of the day, our price for customer installed parts, if we believe in our pricing, it's really the actual whatever our normal total everyday job for the out the door price for the job is with parts and warranty, less our cost of the parts. That's the price. That's the customer installed price, right? Because that's the pricing structure we built. So if we don't believe in it ourselves, then how can we possibly expect a customer to put any value in what we're saying? I think it's an industry issue. I don't think as an industry or as owners, we've put enough thought into this to realize 1.25 times labor or 1.5 times labor is a meaningless number in my mind. I mean, the number is the total price of the job minus the cost of the part. That's all of the normal gross profit dollars that we would have. And so I'm always struggling with all the different ways people that do install customer supplied parts, why we have so many different ways of doing it, when the reality of it is, if we have confidence in our pricing and we want to be fair to all of our customers, our full service customers, and if you do customer supplied parts, your self-service customers, the price they pay should be the same. If there's a difference, it's a little tiny bit because they're assuming warranty exposure, assuming you're that shop that wants to install it.
Right. And Carm, I think if we address or meet that potential customer at the price level, in other words, they're asking about saving money in the price. If we as a service provider go out and meet them at the price level and answer that question, we're doing them a huge disservice, because we've got to understand as an industry that it is not a price issue. It is a trust and fear issue. And if we can engage them on that level and build a relationship based on, look, this is what you think you need, but this is really the issue. Let's talk about it and let's get you feeling good about us working with you. It's going to make a huge difference.
Let's throw another gorilla up here, or an elephant in the room. In a couple of the Facebook, in fact, shop owners group in Facebook, I published the show for today, and there was a lot of banter below it. And Bruce Berry said, "Hey, listen, he got ruled against by a judge. The judge stated that if you installed the parts of your customers, then you accept full responsibility."
Yes.
Of them. But if it fails, it's my responsibility based on my warranty. I ate the parts and labors.
Yes.
A letter, Phil Odom said, "We say no every time. We discard the freeloaders and convert the real customers. No liabilities, no worries of our garage keeper policy, not backing us for not keeping proper custody chain in repairs. Everyone wins. Freeloaders get referred to a knuckle dragger shop via whoever they bought their parts from."
But the whole concept, in a way, it's silly that we even have the discussion in the first place. And what I mean by that is just that the whole idea is insane if you really boil it down. If you want to build a new home, or you want to build a new business, and you call a known contractor in your town and tell him that you're going to go on the internet and get all the materials and have him put it together. How's that going to go? If you go to your doctor or hospital, some kind of medical situation, we all talk about how much they charge for Tylenol in the hospital. So ask them if you can bring your own medications. Ask them if you can bring your own dressings. Will it save on your bill? Or ultimately, Aunt Mabel dies, and you call the local funeral home, tell them you found a great deal on a used casket on Craigslist, and Amazon had a deal on a sale on embalming fluid, and would they take care of Aunt Mabel? And of course, we think that's insane, but that's what we do.
Or
why should we do it?
Yeah, you get your roof done, and you say to the guy, listen, I got a pallet of shingles out in the driveway. Would you put them on for me?
Right.
And when you do find, now you'll find that somebody will say, oh yeah, well, they do that in our area. I did find somebody to put the roof on. Yeah, but that wasn't the top tier business. That was somebody starting out, somebody struggling, maybe somebody going broke, maybe a guy doing it on the side. This was not a full-blown professional business that did that.
But if we think about that, that's our industry, right? I mean, I'm because I came up in an incredibly small market, I've learned that I don't try to make those decisions for other owners anymore. If you're a guy that wants to install customer supplied parts, there's people in my county. 50% of our service bays are home garages. That's 50% of our service bays. Those guys are happy to sell the part for whatever the auto parts sell it for, charge $60 in labor an hour, and call it a day. Personally, their model may be better than mine. It's probably more profitable. So for me to say that that's a backwards way of doing it, it is for me as a professional. And do they make my job harder? They absolutely do. But I'm struggling saying that because I've finally reached, after 40 years like you, Tom, a point in my career where I don't need to do anything. I can install customer parts, not install customer parts, go to work, not go to work, whatever it is. But for me to say that to a guy that's 5 years in or 10 years in, and I remember what that was like, and barely surviving, but he's a guy that he can make it, he can do it, he can be a part of this industry and be a positive part of this industry. I'm not going to tell him at this point in my career, because this is the way I feel, it's the way you have to feel. I've made that mistake in my career, following folks that tell me this works the same everywhere, and this is the way it needs to be, and nothing else. So I'm a little bit the other way, and to me, I don't really care if you install customer supplied parts or not. I just want you to do it the right way. I want you to make money, and I want you to educate the customer, and I want you to minimize your responsibility and liability.
Two things that come to mind is a guy can be 6 months into his business, and just because he hasn't been around for 30 years and doesn't have a $2 million shop, he can still display and present the same style of professionalism. He may not be as big and fancy, but he can still come off at that professional level. So I think that's one thing to put in there. And then as far as these people out here doing it, because that's enough to get a six pack and watch Wheel of Fortune at the end of the day is all the gross profit they're looking for, or net profit. They serve a place. In a sense, you say, well, they make my job harder. Well, they also make it easier, because the bad customers that we're talking about that would bring their own parts, now they have a place to go, and they'll leave us alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's Randy and I were chatting earlier this morning while we were testing our internet connections, and that kind of came up, and I had this wildly profound idea as to what happens to the bottom third of our industry, and instead of basically I came up with the term, well, they're just going to be the parts installers for the e-commerce world, and I think you're absolutely right, Tom. I love what all of you guys are saying, and I want to chime in one more thing I want to talk about: insurance. So one of the people in social networking sent a letter to their insurance carrier, really wanting to truly define their liability. And it's a very short paragraph. And this is from the insurance company. We wouldn't be comfortable with this exposure and would look to non-renew or ask you to move the account if the insured allowed customers to bring their own parts. This is the insurance company to the agent, okay? because the insured asked this question. We wouldn't have control of the part, where it came from, and how it was manufactured. It could be a used, salvaged part. And if a loss were to occur from the failure of the part instead of how it was installed, our insured might be held liable still, because we won't be able to find the origin of the part, or it would be harder to subrogate. It just increases the product's liability exposure, causing it to become unacceptable. How many times do we hear this stuff happening? Hardly at all. I mean, there's a few cases that we've heard about, but it just seems like peace of mind. Is that what this is? Is this don't want to do it, don't want the liability? It's peace of mind. But yet, if that's a growing area of our business, it goes back to how strong is our trust relationship with our customer?
Well, if you look at it from an insurance company's perspective, there's the chain. And if I buy a part from Napa and I install that part, let's say it's a Moog, wheel bearing, and that wheel bearing fails, the wheel comes off, and, God forbid somebody gets hurt, right? The insurance company, my insurance company, is going to be a lot more comfortable with that situation, because they can share the liability with Napa and Moog, right? When I install a customer supplied part, from the insurance company's perspective, they're the only one with the pockets right now, because they don't know if they're going to have somebody else that they can share the liability with. I have a client in North Carolina that this morning I was talking to him. He got a memorandum read to him by his insurance agent that stated they are changing, as of the next renewal with the insurance policy, they are changing it so that they are not allowed. That if they install a customer supplied part, you can do it if you want, but you will not have insurance on it. So, I mean, this is real stuff. And again, it's because, P.T. Barnum said there's a sucker born every minute, right? And there are people out there buying the $70 pair of wheel bearings. And we as professionals understand that is not only a bad purchase, it is potentially putting their entire family at risk from a health and safety perspective.
Sure.
So, for us to just put it on and not know where that part came from, I think is a huge disservice. And the other thing is, people say, well, I want to put no warranty on my invoice. You got to understand that under UCC law, there's 2 warranties that every shop in every state in this country is subject to. It's the warranty of fitness, which means that when we put that part on, it's going to do what it's supposed to. And there's a warranty of merchantability, which means that there's a fair exchange of money. The customer is going to get what they paid for. And that's in every state of the union. So you can put this disclaimer on, but you go to court and you're going to lose. So you've just got to be aware of that. So that's my 2 cents.
So a couple things that I'll just throw in. One of the things in the letter, Carm, was used parts, which probably, Tom, you on occasion might install a used part?
Yes, sir.
Okay, same thing here. If Tom and I both sent letters to our insurance company and said, we install used parts, what do you think about that? In all honesty, I think I would get a letter very similar to one that you've gotten, because insurance companies' goal is to minimize their exposure. So I don't know that completely weighs in any differently. And if your letter is accurate, used parts are just as bad as parts that we don't know the origin of.
Right.
So do we need to stop installing those as well?
But the only comment I'd make there, and I'm sure you've had this occur in your bay, is the insurance adjuster shows up and says, we can do this job cheaper. We're the insurance company. We're going to buy used parts and send them to you, Randy. So I think is a little different, but
I love how you look at things, Tom.
But has that not happened to you, Randy?
Oh, absolutely.
No, all right.
Oh,
okay.
you bet. And they'll occasionally want to send me the parts.
Exactly.
Of unknown origin to me.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh, God. I have to. We had so many fabulous talking points. I think we got to the essence of what we wanted to talk about today. And I guess here's a parting thought or a comment to get your opinions. this isn't going away. I mean, the $10 billion of part sales that are going on with Amazon and eBay, yeah, some of it's going to the professional side. I get that. But there's still an awful lot of diagnostics being done and people buying their own parts and wanting them installed. It's not going away. So I guess, guys, is it the choice of the shop owner to either forward into this, stay with it, say no to it, and pick a place?
Well, I think the liability thing that Rick just brought up. So you're going to install a customer supplied part and risk your entire business. I mean, we really don't need to go any further. That's the end of the discussion right there. Why should anybody ever install them for that one reason right there?
And I'm going to agree with Tom that if indeed there is if your insurance company has taken a stand, keeping in mind it's because you ask that they took the stand, but keeping in mind that they took a stand, if you can't be covered on that part, then there's no way that you can do it. I mean, nobody that has any investment in their facility, in their business, for sure.
Anybody ever hear the crazy stories that would happen? It was the wrong part, or it had to come back for a warranty, and then they had to go out and find another one. Have anyone heard the horror stories that go with that?
I've lived it.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
I've lived it. I had a guy with a Thunderbird buy a used transmission because he didn't want to spend the money on rebuilding his, which is one of the things I used to do. And I explained to him that we would put it in, but if it didn't work, we got paid to pull it out again. But it took 3 used transmissions before we got one that worked. And his bill was more expensive than if he had gone for the rebuilt transmission. So yeah, it's definitely, and it's a terrible place to be put into, but it is what it is. These are some of the things that, here's the thing, you can PE is other people's experiences. And I'm hoping that some of the younger guys that are watching this podcast or maybe listening to it later are going to sit there and say, here's some guys that are either got gray hair or they don't have a whole lot left. And, maybe I should just listen a little bit and learn from their mistakes instead of making the same ones over and over again.
Yeah, it's wonderful that you bring that up because we have that discussion, especially us old guys that sit around and, it's kind of like we didn't have the resources today that shop owners have with all this exchange of information. We were out there on our own. So we were out there on our own for 20, 30 years just doing a crappy job because we didn't know any better. And now people start today and they can immediately tune into this stuff like this, right, and find out. And like you said, don't learn on your own. We already made the mistakes. I mean, take that and make the most out of it and go spend your money on something worthwhile.
Right. You get one guy, he tells you, and he's a dumbass. But when you get 3 or 4 guys telling you the same thing, you got to start to stop and listen.
Well, and I'll just say to Tom's point, there's some satisfaction. If someone can learn from something that cost me, it's like Absolutely. Makes me feel better because there was some additional benefit that happened. Amen. Because maybe it really stung me. Right.
Yep. Amen.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, my coaching doesn't come from success. It comes from a closet full of t-shirts that say, been there, done that. So.
Yeah, keep them hidden. Keep them hidden, but learn from them.
Oh, right? Yeah, baby.
Yes, I understand. And by the way, no one has mentioned what this really is all about. It's wisdom.
Yes.
Bingo. And that's exactly what it is. Someone told me, hey, people are 55, 60 years old and lose their jobs. And says, you don't understand. Businesses today need wisdom around. There's a lot of young people that could wish they could tap into people who know what's around the next corner because right. They've been there.
And it repeats. It's amazing how it repeats. It just keeps goes to different levels, but it repeats.
So let's go around the room. Let me give each of you a chance to summarize what we're saying and then take a stand on the issue.
I can do that.
I can too.
So I think that if there was a message for shop owners, it's no matter what you're going to do, get paid for what you're worth, and actually put the numbers to it. I mean, it drives me crazy that in this industry we we do things off the cuff and we think, well, that's enough. That covers it. When the reality of it is, if somebody showed us a little different way, we'd be going, I just gave that person a 40% discount. So get paid for what you're worth. And make sure that if you've got service advisors and other people on your front counter, give them a process, give them the training so that when they get hit with it, it's consistent across your group.
Thank you, Randy. Before I give it to Rick and Tom, why purchase a Jasper quality remanufactured product? Well, it's their people. A Jasper associate is dedicated to high quality customer service, committed to excellence, professional, and has pride of ownership as part of a 100% associate-owned company. Thank you, Jasper, for your support of the Town Hall Academy. Tom, I'll let you go next.
When the occasion occurs, let the people know that you're more than happy to fix their car. The rules are going to be a little bit different, and we'll be happy to tell you why, be happy to explain it, but we'd be more than happy to fix your car, give you the best value possible. And just that isn't one of the options. We can give you a lot of options, but that just doesn't happen to be one of them. And one of the things we talk about requests, when we get requests for it, I'm going to say 90% of them are on the email. And they are almost always first-time customers, which I believe came up before. What we've done with our shop, and you can go online, look at our website, and a lot of people are doing with their shops now, is we spent the money on the entrance, on the lobby, the customer area, the service advisor area. And when this type of customer, they do walk in from time to time, and often they don't even ask the question because they kind of look around and they go, they're not going to install this part. And just, oh, never mind, I walked in the wrong door, and out they go. You can, we talk about having a really great customer entrance, customer waiting room, et cetera, for all the pluses. One of the pluses that we often forget, it repels bad customers. When you're talking about alligator bad customers, one of the best things you can do is put a fantastic, pricey, beautiful entrance and waiting area, because they won't even ask the question. They'll wander in and wander right back out.
Guys, that's the soundbite for this episode right there. Great point, Tom. That's it. How do you repel it? I love it. And smile, right? You have to smile, right?
That's right.
But you don't have to answer their question. The question's never asked. The fire never starts.
It is never asked. Wow. Cool. Prevention. An ounce of prevention. Rick.
Well, I think three things that I would really like to get across and make sure is, number one, is understand that when someone's coming to you with a price and a part, it's not, they do want to save money, but it's really from a trust and fear issue. The second thing is, as an owner, I need to get clear about the benefits that I offer as a business that my customers can take advantage of doing business with me, and being clear on that so I can get the customer off of price and onto cost, because that's where I want to talk to a customer. I want to engage a customer on the cost end of it, the value, the benefit. And then the last thing is, the reality here is it's transparency. There is more transparency in our industry than there ever has been before. And I think we can sit there and fight it if we want, but I believe that we need to embrace it. And I think that as an industry, I know I've touched on this in my podcast as well, is I believe we're going to, as an industry over the next 3 to 5 years, be changing how we price things. And I think if we sell a part at or near cost and move the profit from the part to all labor, it's still going to be the same price going out the door, right, but it's going to take the whole Rock Auto, Amazon, everything out of it. Here's the price of the part that I sold you. It's 10 over cost. It's still the same price, but now all my profit's in labor. And I think that's coming. I think we're going to end up having to deal with that as more and more people become educated. The younger buyers, the older people aren't doing it as much, but millennials, they are looking at parts. And if I can get it at Napa at this, well, that's what I'm selling it for.
Right.
And now it's a matter of, this is what we're going to charge you for our tech, our shop, our benefits, and it's all in labor. So I do believe that's coming.
Wow. We took a really tough subject and we really exposed it. And we talked about a lot of things, a 360-degree view of about installing customers' parts. So thank you guys so much. Tom Ham, Rick White, Randy Luzick. Appreciate you being on. Thanks for your contributions. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you so much. Great event.